the media industry is actually a very technology heavy industry. And so I always think it's so interesting that they're very much cousins. I mean,
and then came the big day. You surprised all of us.
And myself.
With Namaste Wahala. In the midst of Valentine, shows up and becomes number one in the US, number one in UAE, number one in India, number one in Nigeria, number one in the UK, from someone that had never produced a movie before. Tell us about that. And all of that under the Netflix banner.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, sometimes things happen, and I didn't know this was going to happen either.
In my opinion, the core of any really successful transaction that happens is always relationships, and being able to find like-minded partners who have a passion.
So the battle is no longer just about media and image and the African narrative. It's also about how do we create sustainable companies.
Welcome to Silverbacks Valley. I'm your host, and my name is Ibrahim Sanya. We have an amazing guest today. But before that, a gentle reminder, press that subscribe button, join the community, meet founders and funders, changing sports, tech, and entertainment from Africa to the rest of the world. And never miss a thing. Enjoy.
But I'm not going to leave you off the hook. You need to give us the nuggets behind that transaction. How does that come about? And what were the overall terms? Because, for every entrepreneur, effectively the chance to give birth to a business and sell it or doing an IPO is similar to the actor that gets his movie on the big screen. So what is that path?
In my opinion, the core of any really successful transaction that happens is always relationships, and being able to find like-minded partners who have a passion, as you do for a event, production, a venture. And I had gotten to know Bob in 91, actually 92, when he came down to St. Lucia when we started the festival. And he came down for about 3 or 4 years in a row to the festival. And Bob at the time was certainly one of the top entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs, period, but certainly African-American entrepreneurs in the United States or the world, if you will. And I built my relationship with him, ended up pitching him the show, Caravan Rhythms, along with a guy named Alan Chastanet, who was then director of tourism in St. Lucia, and then ended up becoming Minister of Tourism and Prime Minister of the country for a number of years. So we pitched him the show, ended up marrying the host of the show, Rachel.
That question was going to come.
Right. So that's been truly one of the greatest blessings of my life. And 3 children later, blessed beyond words there. So, but as far as the venture itself, Bob got to know me, I got to know him. At the time, I was producing about 3 festivals. It was Aruba, St. Lucia, and Trinidad at the time. I think we were doing about 3 festivals when I met Bob. And just both kind of had a nice attraction. He thought that I was a solid young entrepreneur on the way up. He had a very solid love for jazz music and live music overall. And BET was, at the time, BET was the only black brand on there was black radio, but there was no black television other than BET at the time. Now there's a number of offerings. So as far as the deal itself, I was in my 30s at the time, and was learning a lot about kind of broader business and not just purely bootstrap entrepreneurialism. And when Bob first offered me the opportunity to buy my business, he made a cash offer, and I actually turned it down. And said, I've got more than that saved, thankfully.
Obviously, your mentor was the media, the banking, and the lawyer chose that behavior, but how do you migrate in such different territories?
Well, for your write-up about that, my mentor, Dick Parsons, is the one who got me into venture capital, even though I've been making angel investments in a bunch of African companies and early stage ventures for a while. But this evolution actually came from a realization. When I was in my early 20s, I started Trace because I really wanted to tell more positive stories about Black people, and about people of color, because I really felt that the way we were represented in the media was very negative. And I also felt that it was a lot of non-Africans and non-Black people telling stories that are related to our lifestyles and our ambitions. And so I thought media was everything and that the image was everything. But as I became older and wiser, I realized that it's really about capital and access to capital. And what we're trying to do with the Equity Alliance to help to democratize access to capital by providing people with more capital, which leads to more opportunity, because funding has held so many people back. They have not been able to launch new ventures or to grow their ventures just because they haven't had access to capital. So the battle is no longer just about media and image and the African narrative. It's also about how do we create sustainable companies? How do we create more African unicorns? How do we create more companies that are led by women and people of color?
And then came the big day. You surprised all of us.
And myself.
With Namaste Wahala. In the midst of Valentine, shows up and becomes number one in the US, number one in UAE, number one in India, number one in Nigeria, number one in the UK, from someone that had never produced a movie before. Tell us about that. And all of that under the Netflix banner.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, sometimes things happen, and I didn't know this was going to happen either. So when we started Namaste Wahala, I was meant to go to cinema. Film One was our consultants, and they were the ones who actually taught me the ropes, because as I told you, I was a newbie. Of course, MI was there, so it was really nice to have this support network. And we were always planning to release in cinema. We'd actually even released the flyer saying we're coming in April. No one predicted COVID. COVID came out of nowhere and just literally hit us, and so we had no idea what was going to happen, and we kept thinking, okay, the world's going to open, so we delayed it. It was like, okay, fine, October, it's going to happen. The funny thing is, when we finished shooting Namaste Wahala, Netflix landed in Nigeria a month later. So again, things happen for a reason. We didn't know then, but we know now that was meant to be. After a while, it was very clear COVID was here for a while, and you know, things happen, and it was the right move. It was something we had to do, and not even had to do. I mean, I'm actually grateful for it, because had it not happened the way it happened, it wouldn't have gone to the world, as you said. So this little baby, this small little project was meant to erupt, was meant to sort of spread a message. It, you know, there was a quote that went out there that it was the first Nollywood movie to trend in the US. So India, for example, had a Nollywood movie in their top 10. So it was just awareness, and I think a lot of people were very excited to see a Nigerian and an Indian together. It's not a very normal or common thing you see in the commercial world. So that was exciting for us, and I'm going with it.
And so I always think it's so interesting that they're very much cousins. I mean, most technology actually comes from media space. And so if you look at, you know, earliest technologies around communication, which actually gave birth to the phone today, when you look at, you know, the VHS or the cassette or the Sony Walkman, which everyone had to have, which is actually how you got the Apple, all the Apple, iPod, and today the iPhone. It really comes from the trying to find more and more ways to distribute media. And that's it. I mean, even today, I'm sure this show is going to be distributed on so many more platforms. Absolutely. And all of those platforms are powered by technology. And so I always try to help people understand how closely actually what I've done all along is connected to what I'm doing today. The second part about media is that media is it's actually like it gave birth to VC, in my opinion. Because with every project or product that you're looking at in media, you also have a high failure rate. Not everything that people put on the screen resonates with customers. You also have you're also building off of people's track record. Everything that you do with I'm sure everyone behind a camera here, you had to understand their track record. And I think that also too, one of the most important things is that when things hit, they hit big. And it's the same thing with VCs. And so when people tell you about a blockbuster, it's because of a combination of many things and then just resonating with the customer. And so I think that for me, it has been interesting trying to help people understand those links and the opportunity there.
Hey, if you like today's story, press like, leave a comment, subscribe, come back for more stories from the founders and the funders, changing sports, tech, and entertainment from Africa to the rest of the world. We look forward to seeing you again soon.